Hello everybody, I'm going to extend the workshop example to add images, which is something that we just ran out of time for at the end. I've gone back to where we were in the end of the first workshop. I have modified it to take all of the suggestions that we had in terms of different TV shows. So we have The Office, and I updated this to the current one that's on HBO, I think. Alice in Borderland. I've written Alice Earth, that should be Alien Earth. Let's fix that while we're here. Alien Earth. And just have the IDs of each of these, so each one of them should go to the corresponding show and show the episodes for that, which it looks like it does. So the first thing we would need to do is modify our data structure that loads from the JSON to be able to access this image property, which you'll notice is in so inside each episode there's an image property, but strangely that's not just a URL, that's an object with a medium and an original. So in order to handle this, we basically need to load or extend our codable thing for this image data. So let's create a new structure called image data, and we can just put this up here. So this is image data. Actually, let's not put it in here, but let's put it in our table view with the other structure. So we have show data, embedded show data, episode data, and then for episodes we have our image data. And as we just saw, this is in something called image. So we could easily extend our overloaded version of this, and all we would need to do is create a new variable here, call it images, or we could call it image because that would match what's in the actual JSON, but I'm going to call it image URLs because it's actually an object with multiple image URLs. So it's not a string, it's going to be this image data. And when we decode this image URLs, we're going to have a case here called image URLs. This is going to be set to image, which needs to match what we have. Let me switch to Chrome. What we have here. But in our structure, it'll be called image URLs. And then to decode this, we would just have a line like this, and it would say image URLs, and it's required, so we don't have the try optional, and the type of the thing it's decoding to is this, so we put that in here, and the key that it's decoding to is this one here called image URLs. So and if we do this with any luck, we could now set a breakpoint in here somewhere, like say here, and we could run this and just check that it's decoding this information okay. So let's try The Office, and we can have a look at show data and have a look at the episodes here, and here's image URLs, and sure enough it's got a couple of image URLs. So we've now loaded the information that we need. Just check that the sound is okay. Yep. Okay. And what you may imagine we could do is inside our table view cell, we could use that image URL to go and fetch something. So we could say something like let episode image URL be equal to episode dot image URLs dot original, and that would give us the URL. And we could try creating a URL from this, from string. And then we could go and fetch this. So, I mean, what this would look like is pretty much like a task with well, we're very similar to what we had above here, really. We would need a task and a do block and something where we get the data like this, and then instead of decoding it, we would take the data that's returned and load an image from it. So let's take, this code, and we'll just adapt it down here. So here you are loading a cell, and you might say, okay, we check that we've got our image that we want to load. Excuse me, I'm just going to cough for a second. I'll just try and mute myself. Okay. So we would then have something like this, a task block where we try and use this episode image URL. We get back some data and a response. This is going to say it's an optional, right? Yeah, it must be unwrapped. So let's just take this, we'll put it in here. We will write a little guard statement, and if this is not valid, we'll do what we did earlier and we'll just throw an episode list error invalid URL. And we might want to actually have a different one. Instead of this show image URL, we might say something like invalid episode image URL. So then we've got this one, and we can go back in here and we'll just change that to the episode image URL. And if we run this, we get back some data, and when we get back the data, you may expect that we could just put it into a cell, and we can try that and see what happens. How you would do that is you would say let image equals UI image, and UI image has a initializer that expects some data, and that's just exactly what we get returned from our request. And if this is valid, then we can obviously do something like this and say cell dot in this version of the app, did I actually set up my, can't remember where I got to in each workshop. Let's just have a look and check in my table view cell. No, I never actually built the connection. So let's do that now. We'll create something called episode image view, which would just be an IB outlet episode image view, and this would be a UI image view, correct? And then in our storyboard, here's our cells here, and I'm just going to check the connections. So we've got episode image view, and we want to set episode image view equal to that. Okay, so now we should be able to say cell episode image view dot image is equal to our image that we just got here. And this code looks reasonable, but there's a problem with it, and it's not going to behave quite the way we expect. I'm just going to print an error here. Just so we can see it as usual. You would do better error handling than what I'm doing here. If we run this, I can load something, and let me turn this breakpoint off. And we'll see some episodes load, but what happens is this code that we have here is running in the background, but it's keeping a reference to this particular cell. And one of the things we know is that cells get reused. So if I load one of these pages and scroll the app, by the time I actually finish loading this image, the cell might have no longer been referring to episode 1, season 1, which was the image I was loading for it, and it may now be displaying season 2, episode 3. So while this code here works, and if I'm not moving the table view, I get the right result, we might get a strange result if we start clicking on this and then we scroll really quickly. You might even see some of these update from one image to another because they're using a particular image and then it's updating later, or it might be loading multiple images for the same cell as you scroll past, because it's only displaying sort of 2 cells on the screen, so it might only have a pool of 3 or 4 different cells that it's reusing here. So while this looks like it works, and if you knew some of these episodes, you might say, oh, that's not right, it's showing the wrong image. This is not particularly safe as a thing to do. So how do we do a better thing here? A way to do a better thing is to load the images and actually associate them with the particular episode. Now we've been loading now we've been doing the codable work ourselves, it's possible that we can even put additional properties in this class, and then they're ignored by codable. So I could do something like this. I could have a little Boolean property that checks, am I downloading an image for this episode? And that's just to prevent me from downloading it multiple times if I scroll the table view around. And then once I have downloaded something, I can store a copy of the image here in this structure and associate it with it. And then as I'm loading the table view, I can just check if this image exists. If it does, I just display it straight away. If it doesn't, then I download it. And when it's finished downloading, I set this image and I just tell that table view cell to reload. And if it's off screen, it won't bother. But if it's on screen, it will reload. And when it reloads, it'll see there's a value for image and it will use that. So, this is a nil. Initially, it's nil. This is false. So, we don't need to set these. They can be ignored by the initializer, and they're just used for state information. So let's modify our code in our cell for row at index path. And that code would end up looking like this. Where's my cell for row at index path? Down here. Okay, so we could basically replace what we had here. I might actually comment it out, so then if you want to have a look at it and understand why it's wrong, you can. So the first thing we do is we'll just we'll just check that the okay, there's a few things I'll fix here. We'll just check that the episode, we'll set the episode's image view to nil, just to reset it so it isn't kept the same when we reload it, you know, the red cell problem. Here's our logic. If there's an image associated with the episode, then all we do is we set the image, the cell's episode image view to be equal to the image. Okay, so that's really simple. The other case is if the episode image is not downloading and there's a valid image URL, then we request it and we set the images downloading property, and then we do the work with the data task, pretty much what we just saw before. When we're finished, we get the image, and what we do with the image is we set it on the current episode, and then we tell the table view to reload the cells at the current index path. And as I said, if they're off screen, nothing happens. If they're on screen, it will update, and when it updates, it will follow this code path and it will update the image in that table view. The final thing is, you know, if anything fails, if we finish downloading, we set the image downloading back to false, and same thing here if there's a failure. And that's pretty much it. So if we run it, one thing here the compiler's complaining about is it can't assign this to a let constant. And this is a let constant for the episode. And this is because at the moment the episode is a structure, which means it makes a copy of it here and then it tries to modify it, or in this case the let variable prevents it from modifying it. But even if this is sort of warning a different problem, which is if we're using a structure, the information of me saving the image in there is lost. But if we change this into a class, and all we do is change the keyword class, then it's copy by reference instead of by value, and making a copy. So it's assigned by reference. Sorry. And if I run this now, and I need to make one more annotation here, which just let the compiler add this insert keyword. Oh, what else have we got wrong? So at the moment, this image URLs is not an optional, and it may be in one of these cases there is no image URL. And that could be because an episode doesn't yet have an image. So let's just change it to make it optional, and that will also maybe fix a problem if one of our things doesn't have a yeah. Okay, let's see. So and as we scroll, we should see the same image displayed for each of these. So they'll be consistent, and then if I come back to them, they should load a bit faster because they get cached. And hopefully something like house, we see the correct values on these. Okay, so that's how we could load images safely and associate them with the episodes in this case. Okay, thanks for watching.